So Gary, the Marbella training camp has finished. How satisfied are you with how it's been?
I think it's been really good. I think the first thing you look for are the facilities, what you wanted them to be. Can we train exactly the way we want to train and do all the other work that we need to do, the physical side of it. And I think it's everything we wanted really. It's been hot, but we knew that, and that's part of the process. And it does have a certain adaptation when you're doing the physical work. It makes it even harder. But it's been very, very good. The staff have worked incredibly hard to make sure the players have got everything they need. And we've been really, really pleased with the 5 days so far.
And the application of the players has stood out for me. They've worked incredibly hard in very difficult temperatures.
I have to say, some of the things we've done have been difficult. Some of the things we've done, most teams I've ever been involved with would have had a little bit of a moan and a little bit of a whinge. Our lads have been fantastic. They just got on with everything. I can't think of one session where they've not applied themselves as much as possible. The data suggests that everyone has been working to the max. Still think there's more to give in terms of improvements physically, but we look in pretty good shape at the moment. So we've been really, really pleased with how everything's gone in this camp.
Of course, it's your first full pre-season as Birmingham City manager, and that's something I guess you've been relishing to get your teeth into.
Yeah, I think you need that process of some time in the summer. I think that there's disadvantages and also advantages are coming in mid-season. Of course, you've had a previous manager, so sometimes you can have an impact by just being different. And we're aware of that new manager bounce back, if you like, that people say there is out there. So I think the key for us is that we've got the length of time and this 5.5 week period where we can instill everything that we want to instill. And I think that's very, very important.
You've got 4 new players in so far. How have they been assimilated into the group, and how pleased are you with what they've done?
Yeah, very pleased. I think every one of them offers a different type of thing. Someone like Alex Jones, he's not necessarily been brought to go straight in the first team, but he's worked very, very hard out here. 2 keepers have been very, very good, and Jack McGomer as well. So I think they've instantly, speaking to those players, they've all made pretty similar statements that it's been very, very easy to integrate into the group. I think they feel very comfortable already. I think it's obvious that the character in the group's really good and the camaraderie, and I think that's something that stood us well last year, and I think we need that type of togetherness and that type of unity next year also.
Has any player come back and caught your eye in pre-season so far, and when you've gone, wow, that's interesting?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to name one player when there's 22, 23 players working their socks off. I think you look at some of the younger ones, someone like Dimmy who's come back. He looks a little bit bigger, he looks a little bit stronger, he looks a little bit more confident. And I think he's been very focused, certainly in the conversations I've had with him. Clayton looks fantastic, looks very, very athletic, looks very strong, as have the other strikers, Wes, Novi, they've worked really, really hard. There's been lots of good performances over the week. I don't think there's any one or two that really stand out over the rest. I think it's been a pretty even split in terms of what everyone's given and in what everyone's showed. And the nice thing for me is there's probably 4 or 5 players that perhaps didn't play as much last year, but could be forgiven for feeling a little bit less motivated in some ways. But they've all come back, rolled their sleeves up and worked hard in the summer, and very, very confident of trying to push forward and get into the team this season.
What's the next step in terms of preparation and minutes in games and so on when we get back to Birmingham?
Yeah, we've built that process. At the end of May, I sat down and worked out exactly what we're going to do. So this plan's been in place for probably 2 months. They'll play 45 minutes each. 2 different 11s against Nuneaton. We'll play exactly the same against Kidderminster. They played 45 minutes this morning, as you saw, 11 v 10 actually, so if a man gets sent off, so we're prepared for that as well. And I think that's the process, and then we're then looking towards the Burton Albion game and the Benfica game, where everyone gets 90 minutes. Of course, before that we have the Northampton game and the Shrewsbury game, where everyone will get 90 minutes. So again, we're trying to build up those minutes for the players and be a little bit controlled to start with. But I think that the main thing for me is, and it'll be something I'll be saying before the Nuneaton game, is this is not a friendly now for me. This is about us getting that win mentality and having that desire to want to be very, very good straight away in pre-season.
And onto your squad. I mean, a couple of weeks ago you said you were in advanced talks with 3 players, one of whom was Thomas Kuszak. Any more movement in that respect?
Yeah, again, it's a testing time, and I think we spoke about before, and unless you're able to go out there and throw big bids in for players and pay them extortionate wages and deals, you have to be patient with them, and that's just a scenario we're in. But it means that we've had to work very, very hard to get to this point. We've got a couple of deals at the moment out there on the table to players, and I'm hopeful for a positive response. But we've also got a list of 5 or 6 other players that we will target if those deals don't work out. So I'm hopeful to get at least 2, possibly 3 in. And I would say the best timescale, as much as I want them to be done next week or tomorrow, I think the realistic timescale with those is, I'd look to at least get another 3 players in before the start of the season, before the first game. And as you say, sometimes for the better players, you have to wait and be patient.